Welcome to the DK Custom Products YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching. Today we're going to be installing the DK Custom Products Transformer External Breather System. It's our very new system. If you're not familiar with the Transformer External Breather System, check out the video in the corner. But today I'm gonna do that installation as well as an installation of the 606 air cleaner. Now, before I show you guys what all is involved in this installation, I'd appreciate if you guys would like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is one of my favorite covers that we offer here at DK. It's a contrast cut. It's billet aluminum. It's machined with fins on it. And then we hand sand for the contrast cut on top. It's powder coated as well. Now, in addition to the air cleaner cover, we have a matching timing cover. It's going to look really great. So you got the timing cover that'll be down below the air cleaner cover. So, but that's not what this video is about. We have several videos on installation of the 606 air cleaner system. I'll link those above again. But this video is going to be about the Transformer External Breather System. And I'll pull a picture up here because there's a lot of components in here. It's a very nice system. This is the Cadillac of external breather systems. Of course, there are standoffs and spacers and breather bolts, but all the venting, all the rerouting happens in here. Again, you can look at the video that I linked earlier to see how this works. It can be vented externally or internally, but what we're going to do is vent it externally. It comes prepackaged, ready to vent externally. You don't have to do anything, just install it. Now, you have options for external breathing. You can route your hose to a billet aluminum catch can, or you can use a small pod filter, or you can route an open-ended hose right to the ground. I don't recommend doing that because you might leave a spot or two in your garage floor, but today we're going to use the billet catch can, and we're going to hang it right below the air cleaner. It's going to hide in plain sight. It's going to look really nice. Now, one of the very first things you're going to want to do is install all the O-rings into the slots where they go. You'll have 6 O-rings, one on each side of the 2 spacers. Then you'll have 2 on both sides of the ears of the standoffs. And they just go in very easily. You just press them on. They'll go into the slots. And for the most part, they'll stay in. It's not something you're going to have to fight with or use any type of electric grease or anything like that to hold in. They just slip in there, and they stay in there nicely. The only reason we don't pre-install these is because if they do come out during transportation or packaging, they might get blended in with packing materials and discarded. So we don't want you to be short of O-rings, so we allow you to do it yourself and install these. All right. Now, another thing you're going to want to do is check the contents. Contents are listed on the instruction sheet. Now, since the transformer is sold separately from the air cleaners, it will have its own instruction sheet, and that's what I'm going to be going over with you guys today. We're not going to go over the 606. All right, so the first thing you're going to have is an optional filter or a catch can. I have that right here. And then with all of our external breather systems, we include 6 foot of hose. So again, that you can route it wherever you choose, under the bike, over the bike, front of the bike, rear, wherever you want. You're going to have enough hose to route it wherever you choose. That's 6 foot there. Now, 4 zip ties, I have those here. I see them there. And then 2 hose clamps. These come packaged in a clear baggie, so you can kind of look through it. You don't have to lay everything out. I see the 2 hose clamps in there. And 1 each of the hose fittings. You're going to have a straight hose fitting, and you're going to have a 90, an L shape. And so what those are is it's going to help you to determine where you're going to route your hose to. If you want to route it to the side and then up and over, you do that with the 90, the L fitting. You would install as shown there or back that way. If you're going to route the hose straight down, we have a straight fitting for that right here. Thread in there, and the hose will just route straight down. All right, so those are there. We'll check those off the list. Then, of course, you're going to have 1 transformer with 3 1/4-20 button head cap screw fasteners. All right, I see 3 there in the package. And then you have a 4-inch length of O-ring stock. It's not an assembled O-ring. It's an O-ring material, and you can see it there. That's just a spare. That installs into the internals of the transformer, which we're not going to be removing today. All right, so now I'm happy to be the one to show you how to install this. So let's get at it. The first thing you're going to do, take this OEM hot box off the bike. You know, your experience may vary, but for the most part, on all Sportster models, they look just like this. A face plate with a plastic back plate enclosing an air filter element. Just remove all the fasteners that may be holding it together. Now, this particular bike, as you can see, there's a hose down here. It's already had an external breather system installed, but this particular owner is going to upgrade the air cleaner entirely to our 606. Now, one of the things we get a lot of questions on, so if you've looked at that video I linked earlier of the internals of the transformer, a lot of people, for some unknown reason, have a concern that the passageways inside here aren't large enough to pass the volume of pressure coming out of the crankcase. But take a look at this. That's the OEM bolt. That's smaller than any passageway in the transformer. So if it'll pass through this, it'll pass through this without issue. All right, now sometimes these are stuck on with the gasket. Just come straight off, and there you have your throttle body. Now, the very next thing you're going to take off is the OEM support bracket, because as you may or may not be aware, the transformer doubles as a support bracket. So the OEM support bracket is not needed when using the transformer. Now, if you are going to use this to be EPA compliant, now would be the time to transform it to be EPA compliant. Now, we also include a small Allen wrench to disassemble this. And I always recommend just going over it. Even if you're not going to take it apart, double check it. Make sure everything is tight. Now, when you're doing this, when you're addressing these fasteners, use the Allen wrench long way. So you can't put too much leverage, strip the fasteners. This is billet aluminum, but it's very thin material. So you don't want to strip anything. Use it long ways and just go through. I like to go in a star pattern. Make sure everything's tight, nothing's loose, nothing's been overlooked during the packaging process. And I can assure you, if you use the Allen wrench long ways, you can't over tighten it. All right, now's a good time to show you kind of how it's going to look. It's going to go right up there. You're going to have spacers here. Then, of course, your banjo breather bolts that pass through here and install into the heads. So it's a very clean look, albeit out of sight, because it hides in plain sight behind your air cleaner assembly itself. Now, the gaskets we send you, they have an adhesive side, so you don't have to hold it in place and fight with it as you're lining everything up. Pull the adhesive off, and they'll only go on one way. You want to make sure you get it right the first time before you push it into place. All right, now that's going to stay there. Like I said, it has an adhesive side. You're not going to have to worry about it dropping as you're trying to install the rest of the assembly. Now, I'm going to show you something, a little trick that Kevin and I like to do when we install breather bolts onto any application. I'll show you the OEM bolt. You notice all that oil seepage and just dirty gunk that come around there. That came from inside the head breather ports and just seeped around and around the threads. Not necessarily a fault of the bolt, but Harley can sometimes have some poor machining tolerances and will allow seepage, which can in turn turn into a leak. So what I like to use is plumber's tape, Teflon plumber's tape on the threads of all breather bolts, even the ones we send you. Teflon tape will prevent any seepage, and it also doubles as thread locker, so you don't have to add thread locker to those bolts. All right, now I like to do 4 to 6 layers of Teflon tape, as it says in the instructions. You don't have to wrap Teflon around the entire length of threads, but a good portion of them. 4 to 6 layers is perfect. All right, so now when it comes time to installing the transformer, the first thing you want to do is use the 3 fasteners that go around the mouth of the intake as a guidance to hold everything in place so that these breather bolts line up. Because keep in mind, we've removed the support bracket. Now there's a little movement here up and down. It's dropped a little, And you don't want to use the 3 fasteners to pull everything into place. You want it to already be in place. And so we're going to just put these in there very loosely at first. No need to use thread lock or anything of that nature. These are going to come back out when we proceed with the air cleaner install. This is just a temporary measure to make sure everything is clocked where it should be. All right, you want to leave yourself a little space to work with so you can fit the spacers behind the transformer. So we'll start with the front cylinder first. Keep in mind you have O-rings installed on both sides. Slip that in place behind there. Pass your banjo bolt equipped with Teflon tape through the transformer, through the spacer, into the head breather port. Just get it finger tight at first. You don't want to have to fight with the other side. And we'll go ahead and install that other side now. Thread it in by hand at first. All right. Now we're not going to torque these down yet. We're just going to fasten them down flush. This is a 3/4 hex head. You don't want to put, a ratchet or a socket, and definitely not a power tool to it, because you could snap those off. They are aluminum hollow bolts. So just a box-ended wrench, going easy. You don't want to scratch anything. Just get it tightened down flush. Now, because you have Teflon tape on the threads, you're not going to be able to tighten it down finger tight entirely. So that's why we're using a wrench. All right. Now, once you get those snug, you're going to tighten them down to 120 to 144 inch-pounds. Keep that in mind. It's very, very important. Inch-pounds is the torque spec on these. All right. We got those down to a little over 120 inch-pounds, and they're fastened to perfection. And at this point, you can remove these 3 fasteners. Now, to finalize the installation of the transformer, you would install your hose and catch can or filter. Again, we're going to install the catch can. Keep in mind, you can route this system wherever you choose. You can route it down by the cam chest. You can route it up and down behind the rear engine cylinder. You can go up and over to the left side of the bike behind the horn cover, under the bike. It doesn't matter. You just want to have this catch can mounted vertically. And this applies to the catch can or filter. Our kits include 6 foot of hose, so you can route it wherever you choose, all the way to the swing arm if you like. It's not going to make a difference where you route it to. And in some cases, people have even routed to an open-ended hose under the bike. Just try different aesthetics to see what you prefer. The options are almost endless when it comes to routing this hose. In order to install the hose, you need to install the hose fitting. The fitting we're going to use is the straight fitting that I showed you earlier. Now, again, with the Teflon tape, you want to apply it to those threads so there's no seepage over time. All right, now you just want to snug that up. There's no issue. You don't want to just tighten it down and bottom it out in there. Just snug it up. Of course, 6 foot of hose. I'm only going to need about 2 or 3 inches to dangle the catch can right there. All right, now you'll slip your hose up onto the barb fitting there. Now, if you're going to use hose clamps, now would be the time to use them. I personally prefer to use black zip ties on this application. Not only are they very discreet, easily manageable. If you got to cut them off, you just cut them off. They're cheap, easy to deal with. They do the job. There's not a lot of pressure passing through here. It's just something to retain the hose on there so nobody can just pull it off. So I'm not going to use hose clamps. I'm going to use the black zip ties. So your catch can will hang right there. I'll go ahead and put the zip ties on it now. All right, now there you have it. Now, one final touch you can do, you notice that where your support bracket was mounted to the top of your throttle body, you can reuse that fastener just to cover that hole if you wish. There's no harm in just leaving it open like that. But that's it. That's the installation of the transformer in its entirety. The next step would be to install the air cleaner. This is only compatible with air cleaners that the breather bolts do not pass through the back plate. So those of you with Screaming Eagle, RLNS air cleaners, this will not fit. OEM air cleaners will not fit. This has its own proprietary breather bolts that must be used. And so you would use a system that the back plate is separate from the breather bolts. And to clarify further, when I say the back plate is separate from the breather bolts, take a look at this Vance & Hines system here. You'll notice that the back plate could be removed and the breather bolts would stay as they are. So these bolts do not pass through any portion of the back plate. The same for this Cobra system, and obviously the same for the DK Custom Products air cleaners. Now, I'll take a step further and show you a picture of an Arlen Ness air cleaner here. This air cleaner has tabs that the breather bolts pass through. The transformer has its own proprietary breather bolts. So you can't have two sets of breather bolts. You can't eliminate the Arlen Ness breather bolts without eliminating the back plate. The back plate is an essential part of this air cleaner. So that's why Arlen Ness, Screaming Eagle, a lot of the later model S&S, and even the OEM simply will not work with the transformer because they have their own proprietary breather bolts that cannot be interchanged. So if you have questions about fitment of an air cleaner or a transformer external breather for your particular model, leave us a comment below or shoot me an email to support@dkcustomproducts.com. Y'all ride safe out there.